Alright guys, if you're finding this video, my name is 5050 Dad. I have an Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. You can follow my pages via the links in my description. So in this video, I want to talk about overpaying child support. So I found a video from a lawyer that was saying that if you feel like you're overpaying child support, you should go and get a modification. And he lists the reasons why you should get a modification. And one of them was if you're paying daycare and daycare no longer exists, then you definitely need to go get a modification. Also, if the custody arrangement changes, then you want to get a modification. Now, you can get the modification on your own. You can fill out the paperwork and just let it run its course. There's going to be a bunch of paperwork that you'll have to fill out, usually financial documents. However, it's easier to go with a lawyer. It's just not cheaper. So if you don't have the means, when it comes to getting a modification, then you more than likely won't go with a lawyer. You'll try to do it on your own. But most people are intimidated by the process, so they let a lawyer handle it. So I chose a lawyer. The crazy thing is, I did tell the mother of my child that I was going to do it. And I gave it a heads up because I always want to try to be on good terms with her. A lot of the issues usually come from her end. I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but I try to be honest with her, and I told her up front.
Now you see now, you done fucked up, you know that, don't you?
Of course, she wasn't happy about it because we're in a 50-50, and because we're in a 50-50 and I'm paying child support, she loves it. Initially, she hated it. She was like, hey, why are we getting a 50-50? Why not just take like 30% of the custody and just pay me more in child support? But once she found out that there was child support at 50-50, she gladly settled. But that wasn't the only reason. So at the time when my case ended in 2021, she already had a job paying her higher than the minimum, which was what the child support was based on. And so she said nothing. Now in the paperwork, it says that she should tell me when she starts to work. And my daughter was like, hey, mom's working. And I reached out to her. I let her know, like, hey, our daughter said you're working. And she says, no, I'm not working. And so I thought about it. I could have went for the modification then, but I don't know where she's working. What if she took another minimum wage job? Then it wouldn't matter. So I waited for daycare to end. And then I said, you know what? Let me wait a little bit longer. And by the time we got to first grade, she has already bought a place. So now I said to myself, if you're buying somewhere, that means that you have a job that's going to approve your mortgage. So here's the thing about what she did. She lied, or she deceived me, which is not good. In the paperwork, it actually says that if she does not tell me when she starts to work, she will owe me money. Now, if she came to me and she said, hey, I'm sorry I lied, then of course I'm just going to be like, yeah, let's just go through with the modification, and that would be the end of the story. But if they're just like, hey, she owes you money and we're going to take it from her, I'm not sure if I'm going to reject it. Usually I would. I'm not a fan of child support. So even if she earned twice what I earn, I'm not chasing child support if I feel like my daughter is being taken care of, which she is. So I had a situation with a lawyer, and you know, the sentiment is if you're dad and you're getting extra money, you need to get a modification so that mom can get more money. But if you're dad and you're overpaying, they don't care about that. They're just like, you don't really trust dad when it comes to raising kids. Like, that's how a lot of lawyers are. And so thank God my lawyer's not like that. But the whole process is taking longer than it should, because when you're receiving child support and you're a malicious person, your intention is to drag out the process as long as possible because you want them to keep paying you. You want the other party to keep paying you. So now I think about it, I'm definitely not going to not accept the money if they say, hey, she owes you money. Even if I feel like, I can't even say I don't need it, because if you think about it now, I've been overpaying. So that means that I had to change my whole budget because I'm overpaying, and I should have been not paying or paying less. So I got to take it because, you know, by their standards, if it was the other way around and I was significantly wealthier than, you know, where I started when I started the child support process, they would want me to pay more money. So The one thing I learned from this process is that the modification process does suck. The other party that's receiving child support, their counsel is definitely going to try to drag it out. Your counsel is going to have them doing stuff that they don't necessarily need to do. Like, I wouldn't even say necessarily need to do, but for one, at this point, she just needs to provide, how much she's getting paid. But my counsel's like, hey, did you get a raise? Did you take PTO? Like, they're doing all this extra shit. And this is why lawyers, a lot of people aren't fans of lawyers, because they drag the bill. And, that retainer that you pay them, that balance just keeps going down, because they're like, oh, I got to file this paperwork, and I got to reach out to the other lawyer. And before you know it, you're paying thousands for a modification. My modification is north of $1,500. And so I wouldn't really want to do the process again unless I had to. I would initiate it. So whatever this judgment is on my modification, that's it. If she still gets child support, then so be it. I would never do this process again, but it had to be done because it was based on a lie and something that doesn't exist. So no more daycare, that doesn't exist. And she lied about not working, or she didn't update us. She failed to let us know that she got a better paying job because it was done intentionally. And so it's crazy that when the other person that's receiving child support, especially women, when they do that in terms of, okay, you shouldn't be getting paid so much money in child support, people don't really frown upon it because they're like, oh, at least the kid's getting taken care of. But that's not necessarily true. I feel like everybody feels like because women are getting child support, or they're getting a decent amount of child support, despite the fact that they might have less custody or the same amount of custody, they're like, oh, well, the money's going to the child. We don't really know that. We don't, because the way child support is, we view it as a reimbursement, but what if you're spending as little as possible on your child and taking that money that you're getting from child support and spending it on yourself? So if you're like, okay, well, I don't need to buy my kid clothes that they actually need, then you could say that you're misusing the child support, because people say, hey, why isn't the child support money actually spent on the child? And I kind of agree with them, but then I also understand the reimbursement side of it. Most people say, well, I took care of the kid already. The assumption for people who are receiving child support, usually mothers, is that all mothers are good people and they just spend the money, like, the reimbursement, the money that's supposed to be the pre-reimbursement money, on the child. But that's not always the case. I can't say that that's not the case in my situation, but she still deceived me. So I'll let the modification run its course. But if you're ever wondering if you're overpaying on your child support, think about this. Was your child in daycare when you filed your child support? Also, try to look at your state laws. The easiest way to tell if you need to do something is just literally go to Google and say, hey, when should I get a modification in wherever you live, whatever state, because every state is different. And that's my advice to you guys. I'm going to play this video from a lawyer that explains how you can pay more than you should, your fair share in child support, based on being, silly or just being deceived. So I'll let it run.
Mom and Dad were going through a divorce. They had 2 kids, ages 1 and 3. They were able to agree on everything. It was an amicable divorce. Dad agreed on the parenting time, even agreed on the child support. He was going to pay $800 a month in child support, and in addition, $850 for his portion of the kids' daycare expenses. Work-related child care is what the guidelines call it. Well, he did that faithfully. Problem is, he did it way too long. Move forward 5 years, he's still paying that extra $850 in child support as his share of the daycare costs. Well, the real kicker is, Mom, the way the guidelines are written, was to pay the child care or daycare expenses, and she did up until the kids stopped going, but she kept getting that $850 from Dad even after the kids stopped. By my estimation, Dad overpaid by about $35,000, and I've seen cases even worse than that. Here's the thing. Until you file a petition or a motion to modify your child support, it's going to keep on going. And if it includes daycare expenses like it did in this case, then those just keep on mounting up and you keep on paying them. And there's nothing you can do to go back in time and recoup those overpaid daycare expenses. You've got to file a petition or a motion to modify child support when those daycare expenses stop. Otherwise, you're going to end up way overpaying.